comes the, here comes the, here comes the. Y'all don't really want it like, yeah. Here comes the, no. Here comes the, oh. Here comes the. Y'all don't really want it like, yeah. Here comes the, no. Here comes the, oh. Here comes the.
And welcome to Sooner Soundwaves, episode 3. We're back here to discuss the 35-3 victory over Illinois State that took place this weekend. Also going to look forward to the Michigan matchup of two marquee programs in the nation, Blue Bloods of college football, and then we will discuss our locks of the week. My name's Iceberg. Alongside me is the good fellow,
Boomer,
and St. Pablo.
Sooner.
Okay, as stated, OU comes out on top, 35-3 at home in Norman against the FCS opponent of Illinois State. Gentlemen, share your thoughts.
I'll jump in there.
Yeah, that's what I say. Good fella, get in there.
Yeah, I'll jump in there first. Just first, I'll say it was good to see football. Good to see OU out there on a Saturday. Under the lights, I was happy to see that we did play a evening game to start off the season. It wasn't early. It was great weather here in Norman. Start off with the offense. If you just talk about our passing game, amazing to see Mateer with all the weapons on the outside. He was able to kind of do what he wanted to do. The surprising receiver for us is the tight end. Kanak came over, he dropped, had a fumble on the first reception. Outside of that, solid piece to the offense. I think he finished up with 90 yards, which was second in terms of receiving yards for the offense. So solid performance in regards to Mateer. I will say I was a little bit shocked about our running game. Didn't see a lot of hope in regards to looking at our backfield and who we had in the backfield. I think Barnes just didn't give us enough. Now, the freshman Blaylock, I felt like he performed well when he was given the ball. I do see, like, our offensive line, we have to do a better job of run blocking. Pass blocking was no issue. I think there was one sack on Mateer, but he was trying to scramble, get away. So I don't really give that to the offensive line, more just a scramble, a sack that you'll get here and now and then in a game. But overall, offensively, I think we did well in terms of passing. There's a lot of work to look at on the rushing side. I was surprised to see they put Jaden out there in fourth quarter for one touch. I didn't know the reason for that. If you're going to give him touches, give him touches. The one touch for -3 yards, I'm just not sure what that was about. But that happened. I think defensively, we'll stay with offense first, then I'll let you guys talk about offense, and we'll switch to defense.
All right. Offensive production. Your thoughts, St. Pablo?
Good fella, did you go to the game this year? Did you?
I did not. I did not go to the game. I actually had my son had a little league football game that we had to attend. So
I was just curious because it seemed like the atmosphere was good. It seemed like the stadium on TV, watching it on TV, that it was pretty full. And so I thought the standout receiver, you mentioned, the new tight end, and I thought Keontae Lewis, is that right? K. Lewis, he was really kind of a breakout night for him, and a star that night on the offensive side. 2 touchdowns, I believe, and had a long of 28 yards. And so I thought he looked really well, and I would agree. I mean, I will say I thought there was hope on the running side, but there's needed improvement. I thought the hope was in Blaylock. I thought every time he touched the ball, track guy, I was a little offended. You would be, good fella, since you were an Olympian yourself.
no.
Close to. that the announcer kept saying that track guys aren't very tough, and then when they're talking about Blaylock, and then he'd get in there and he'd stick his head in, and he's fast, he's explosive, he is a great runner. I'm not real sure why they would say that about a lot of track guys have success in football, but thought Blaylock ran really well. Obviously, as you mentioned, Mateer, and I think we talked about this earlier. Iceberg, that not sure where the good fellow went, but we talked about this. John Mateer has a record-breaking night, but it didn't seem quite as maybe as flashy as what you would have expected. And do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I'll jump in here. I thought he looked smooth. I thought he was well protected. And at the end of the night, I wasn't as impressed going against an Illinois State as I thought I would be. But then you see it the next day, and he breaks a record, and so maybe my expectations were just a little bit too high. But 30 of 37, that's pretty impressive. 392,
81%, right?
81%, yeah. And you're going against an FCS opponent. I don't want to say it's a little like 7-on-7, but it's not as good as what you're going against every day. But you're actually competing, and it's a game-like situation. But you guys, I also, there were some Texas fans that had us on upset alert this last week, which was a complete. They should have been looking in the mirror, apparently. But so Illinois State wasn't a terrible FCS opponent, but for me, the offense, I felt like it had rhythm. The only times that I didn't think it had rhythm was when the run game couldn't get going. But I also know we had a few, at least a couple offensive linemen as starters that didn't play. I didn't find that out really until yesterday. But the passing game looked good. Kanik looked like a good option at tight end. Lewis on one side and Burks on the other, and then you've got some of those other guys that we can slide in there. I felt like Xavier Robinson didn't look as good as he did last year. Last year I remember he came out and he looked really, really good, but he kind of struggled a little bit. Only getting about 2 yards a carry. So offensively, for me, it was a good get your feet wet game. I know they stayed pretty simple in terms of what we saw from play calling, but not to get the run game going at will against an FCS opponent like Illinois State does give me a little bit of pause. I do think we can sling it all over, and I think the run game will always be there with the quarterback as an option to escape the pocket. That looked pretty good every time he did so. But we've got to get the actual run game going and to be able to establish the run.
Hey, did it surprise you to see they started Barnes, and for him to place he didn't have a good game at all, and to see that and to look at like what happened over the camps over the summer, fall camp, and now he started. I was kind of curious to see what they saw in the beginning because he didn't have a good game at all.
Yeah, no, you're right. But I also think they were quick to shift to the Blaylock kid. They didn't necessarily ride Barnes for too long until they went to Blaylock, and Blaylock looked pretty good until he went down banged up.
Well, I'm going to agree with the point that you made on, you'd like to see us overpower our offensive line, at least be able to create space and create holes for the run game, even if it is, because I know you had mentioned early on that, where they're going to keep it pretty simple. So that's why you wouldn't take the spread in this game. And they came close to covering, but nonetheless, they didn't. And, it's going to be very basic, very simple going in, knowing Michigan's next week, but you would think, there's too many fourth down, tries. I can't remember exactly how many. And there was a few that were not converted. And so that did start to feel a little, reminisce of the Temple game. The Temple game had the score is not indicative of that offense did not produce very well last year in the Temple game, and so this one did. I mean, the highlight, we have a passing game this year, right? I mean, so we're all excited about that. But I would have liked to have seen as well a little bit more dominance up front, running downhill. Blaylock did do that, but the others didn't. So.
Yeah, your fourth down conversions, 2 of 3. So we had 3 attempts, converted on 2 of them.
Okay.
Yeah. And, I think they had more rushing yards than we did. They had 117 to our 103. That's just alarming to me.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's flip it over to the defensive side of the ball. Good fellow, what you think on the defensive side?
Hey, listen, I think I talked about this week 0, whatever we started with. Our secondary cornerbacks to safeties, they are solid. To allow only 34 passing yards all game. That's pretty incredible considering 20 attempts. I will say, we did a lot of just kind of watching the game, a lot of scheme in terms of like seeing some zone coverage, a little bit of man. We had a freshman out there at cornerback that I felt like did his part. Get his name in a second. But overall, I think our defensive secondary did well. I think our defensive line played a really good game. Linebackers, Kip Lewis. Overall, I think our defense. Now you think about how we've been in terms of defensively. I think these are Venables guys, and I'm excited to see what happens this year with this 37 total yards in the second half. This is Venable style defense, and we'll see what happens this year against Michigan.
Yeah. The defensive line, and again, in Brent Venable's style of defense, has to get pressure on the quarterback. And that, to me, he was uncomfortable all night. And then obviously abused in the second half enough to pull him from the game, exactly what Illinois State didn't want. So even though the secondary is covering well, I mean, the pressure is there. He didn't have much time, and it'll be interesting, to see what that looks like against the Michigan Wolverines. You get that pressure on the quarterback, and so yeah, the defense was awesome. I thought I didn't really hear many critiques on the defensive side of the football. Didn't seem like Brent Venables is ever entirely satisfied, but were there any critiques to provide?
I didn't see much. The front four, I felt like did their job. Okay. And so, a lot of times when you're in a 4-man front, your job is to, keep those guys off the linebackers. And I think that's why you see our linebackers were like the top 3 or 4 tacklers in the game. You didn't hear a whole lot about our Mason Thomas. You didn't hear those names this time. But I think Illinois State just did a good job of getting rid of the football and not getting sacked. And then again, like I mentioned, in the run game, they're keeping those big, ugly offensive linemen off of the linebackers in an effort so they can make the tackle. So, but to me, they scored 3. You can't say much negative about the defense. And that's, another thing, Texas fans turn ugly when they lose and we win, and they're claiming that we struggled with Illinois State. I don't see a struggle. I see 35-3. I see, maybe we didn't blow them away 60-3. But it's also, there's a lot of new. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, Ben Arbuckle's a new offensive coordinator. Why would you show a ton before you play Michigan in week 2? And Venables, while he's always really been a defensive guy, it was his first game calling defense and being the head coach. So, there's some things to learn there too. So the back end did look great, as Goodfellow mentioned. The safeties and the corners locked it down pretty well. Linebackers played well, and I think the defensive line did their job. If there's one area that I would like to see improve, it would probably be the guys up front on both sides of the ball. Definitely the offensive line. And the defensive line, I'd like to see them actually get to the quarterback. And we'll get to Michigan here in a little bit. That's going to provide a little bit of a different challenge with Bryce Underwood. But overall, I'd say we come out of that game, with like a B grade. We did what we were supposed to do. It was fun to watch. Just like the good fellow mentioned, I'm glad college football is back. Not very often am I going to be able to just sit and watch college football all day, but I did that Saturday, starting with the Texas-Ohio State game. And it was just nice to be able to see some competition, and college football's back, and it's fall and it's here, and I'm so excited.
I do want to give a shout out, and I don't know, the good fellow wasn't on quite yet, but to Sammy Osmos, I don't know what the nickname is. Omos, yes.
Linebacker. Yeah.
He had more tackles than Stutzman game one, different teams, obviously, different years, but 8 tackles. And so, and a sack. And so played really, really well.
Absolutely. Okay. So that takes us after 1-0, beating Illinois State 35-3. That takes us to week 2 again in Norman against the Michigan Wolverines, with Sharon Moore returning to Norman, a former O lineman for Bob Stoops back in the day. Bryce Underwood, true freshman quarterback, one of the highest recruits in the class, making a ton of money coming into Norman, looking to go against the Sooners. What do you guys have for Michigan?
Hey, so first off, I'm excited to see. I'm not sure if I'm excited or optimistic that we are 2.5 favored going into week 2. I know, we're ranked number 18. They're number 14. Is a home game for us, so not a huge percentage, but I am pretty optimistic to see them that they believe that Oklahoma is favored in this particular game. I will say Underwood, he is watching him last week or Saturday. I'm sorry, Saturday. He's incredible. Freshman, he's done some really great stuff in the air, on the ground. So our defense will be tested. Our defensive line will be tested, and I believe our secondary will be tested. But I believe they are up for the test. But we definitely have to stop their run game. I think their running back had almost 160 rushing yards yesterday. So our running attack will have to, in terms of defense, will have to be effective in order to slow them down. So I'll start there in regards to how I feel we'll do defensively against the Wolverines.
His QBR, Bryce Underwood, was 54.2, and I think we talked about this. Mateer was 80. And yes, you're right on the running game for the Michigan Wolverines. This is a college game day. Yeah, Norman. I'm not exactly. I'm trying to remember back the last time college game day has been in Norman. Do you guys remember what game that would be?
I don't think it's very long ago.
I mean, outside of the OU Texas, I don't remember college game day being in Norman for a while. Maybe Texas Tech? Was it?
We'll look it up.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm just, I don't want to say I wasn't impressed with Michigan Wolverines against New Mexico. It just didn't look like a dominating type of performance. I mean, they came out early, 14-0, and then they allowed 10 points in the second quarter. And again, we started out a little slow. I think we're going to have to get off to a good start. I didn't like the 2 series right out the bat for the Sooners to 3 and out, and so we're going to have to come out and, time of possession is going to be critical, particularly when they have a running game that they do have that the good fellow is mentioning. They're going to try to control the clock. You saw that all the way across. You saw the terrible performance by Arch Manning. And I only say that, Arch Manning at Texas being terrible because of the hype that was there. In comparison to the hype, it was a horrible performance. 34% or whatever completion rate or whatever that was, worst in Texas opener. It was absolutely terrible. And so, but you
Nice
can't,
job.
you can't have a slow start though. You can't, these games, they're going to try to control the time of possession and run the football, get them off the field. And then we're going to have to come out hot and put them in a position. I would love to see the Sooners put Bryce Underwood in a position where he has to rely on passing the football. And as you mentioned, Goodfellow, also, you believe in our secondary. Let's go get it. Put him in position, put the pressure on him, and make him throw the football a lot. So jump out early and attack. I will take the Sooners in this game with the spread. I love this football game. It's game day in Norman, and we're ready to rock and roll.
Last time game day was in Norman.
Yes, sir.
Last year, St. Pablo, Tennessee.
And
then the time before that was 2020.
Right. Okay.
The time before that was 2020 for Bedlam, and the time before that was 2012 Notre Dame.
2012 Notre. Okay, wow.
2012, 2020, 2024.
Woo. Well, you're right. Yeah, that Tennessee game, that is exactly right. That was a great story on Heupel coming in. So, yeah,
absolutely. But you make some solid points there. And OU opened as a 1.5 favorite. Vegas has them now at a 6-point favorite, which is pretty interesting to me. But you come in with a run game, and you're going to try to control the clock, which is the thing you want to do. And a away game that is going to be hyped up, night game day, man, Norman is going to be hopping, especially with all the buzz that's going around about the offense and, the defense and the team in general. So, and Bryce Underwood, honestly, true freshman quarterback coming into Norman, his first matchup, that's a test, a lot like what we saw last week with Arch Manning. Intelligent way of sliding in that debacle there. St. Pablo felt like that was a solid slide. You're right though. He didn't look like he was in rhythm. I don't know if it was play calling or what the case was, but he looked very uncomfortable, and hopefully we can make Bryce Underwood look uncomfortable too. I do believe you come out and you try to stop the run and force him to pass. I do believe, he is a run threat on a scramble too. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration here, but excited about the matchup. Two top 20 teams going head to head in Norman week 2. I think I saw the reason why game day is coming is it's the only ranked versus ranked matchup next week, potentially. I read that somewhere. Of course, these days, that's one thing. You can't believe everything you read. You can't believe everything you see because of all the AI and everything going on. But I did see where this is the only ranked versus ranked matchup this week, according to whatever thing came across my news feed. So I'm excited. This is going to be special. It's going to be electric, and it's going to be an amazing atmosphere this weekend in Norman, Oklahoma, as these two powerful programs face off against each other.
Well, I think it's a must-win for the SEC. The SEC did not look the best outside of LSU. I also think the Sooners need to cover the spread to kind of save. I mean, Ohio State dominated Texas in so many facets: game scheming, planning. The SEC, on the road in a hostile environment, but a totally revamped football team, and they did not look impressive in that game at all. They looked like they were outcoached, outplayed, out intensity. And then you look at Alabama, you go down all the way across, these games, and the SEC, and this is the conference that has dominated for so many years. And, this is football. It's the South. It's a football, family, faith, maybe not in that order, but at the same time, right now, it looks like football is not in the top 5 in the South, right now. And so I think that we know in with the Sooners that football always ranks really high near the top. And, we need to kind of shed all that SEC stuff and just play our standard of football, but also hope we represent and show that you can't come into Norman and win here, because we have a lot of home games this year, and this place needs to be a hostile environment, not for for this game, but for the rest of the games that we have on our schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. Florida State just they handed it to Alabama.
Dominated.
Alabama looked average at best. Florida State looked really dominant. That'll be interesting to see how Florida State fares for the rest of the year, because you guys all know the ACC doesn't take very many stellar wins, and then you've got cupcakes coming down the road.
Right.
So that will be interesting to see for Florida State. LSU did look good, as you mentioned, St. Pablo, as the SEC team that probably looked the best over the weekend. They looked really physical against a pretty decent Clemson football team. So,
and people are raving about they're raving about South Carolina's victory, but they played Virginia Tech. I didn't see that to be a dominating performance, but I have heard, people, on air complimenting, and a win is a win, but nonetheless, like you said, outside of LSU looks like the team in the SEC right now.
Yeah. Speaking of LSU, let's flip over to locks of the week. And since LSU is the topic of the last discussion, I'll go first. I had LSU plus 3.5 versus Clemson. LSU ends up beating Clemson. So I recover from my 0-1 start and will go to 1-1 this week. Okay, you guys all remember when we went in episode 1, game by game, I said the Michigan game would be where we get punched in the mouth and have to reset, and then end up coming out and finishing the year 8-4. So I mentioned a minute ago, OU is a 6-point favorite. I'm going to take Michigan in this. I'm hoping OU wins by not more than 6 or more than 5. So that's going to be my lock of the week, is Michigan plus 6 against the Sooners.
Nice.
Good fellas. We got.
Hey, so I'm going back to the well. I'm drinking the water. I am looking at this Kansas versus Missouri. I believe right now Missouri is plus 6.5. They're playing in Missouri, but I don't believe they're going to beat Kansas by 6.5 points. I do see Kansas winning by 3, so they will cover. Close game. So I'm taking Kansas plus the 6.5.
Okay. And you, how did you fare this week?
I end up losing. I lost by 3.5. So
Colorado Buffaloes plus 5 versus Georgia Tech.
He lost by a touchdown. So lost.
Good fella drops to 1-1.
1-1 on the season. I will recover.
Yeah. So again, anyone watching the Auburn-Baylor game knows that Auburn did not dominate that football game. Baylor failed to convert touchdowns when they needed to. They failed to convert fourth downs when they, short fourth downs when they needed to. We saw that Jackson Arnold, we already knew this, he can run. He's a very good runner. The Baylor's defense, I don't know if they watched film last year or not. I mean, but they were not ready to defend against his run. But still, although I lost this game handily because Auburn does end up winning by 2 touchdowns, it was way closer than what that score indicates, and that people will be ready to stack that box against Auburn. So I was not impressed with Auburn. I mean, I say congratulations to Jackson Arnold. I think he did dominate with his feet. It's a good win on the road, but it wasn't a dominant performance. It was an amazing first week of college football. Absolutely amazing. We're hyped up. We still have a game tonight that'll be a lot of fun to watch with North Carolina in the debut of Bill Belichick. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be a fun game to watch. But I like the Sooners. I'm 0-2, mind you. I couldn't start any worse, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue this trend. However, I am trying to figure out. I am showing 2.5 on the OU game, which is a great number. But 6 has got me stretched a bit, but I will take what I need to take on that. I just can't find 6. I'm finding 2.5. But
I see 2.5 too.
Yeah, I don't know where you're getting the 6.
6 could have been earlier in the week.
No, it's right now.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
But I do like the Sooners to win. 3 would be better than 6, but I'll go confident on whatever I need to with the Sooners. I feel like this is a big game. It's a must win. I am, after watching game 1, I think the Sooners have to win this game. I think that, you talked about your schedule, Iceberg, with them losing this game. I don't think they can afford a punch in the mouth right now. The schedule is brutal, and if this run game does not get where it needs to get, I would have to concede my 10-2 doesn't look as pretty as what I thought early on.
Yeah, definitely going to need a run game to get to 10-2.
Oh yeah.
So you're going with OU and how many? You going to take 6?
I will take.
Woo.
Yeah, 6 is a lot. 6 is a lot. Okay, I'm looking at your spread here.
So it opened up at 1.5.
Yeah.
And you have the over and under at 110, huh? Wow. Well, I'll take the Sooners. I'm not going to back down on the pick. I think that the Sooners win this football game by a touchdown.
Okay. So St. Pablo goes with OU by a touchdown. All right. Boomer Sooner. Boomer Sooner. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be fun to watch for sure.
Yeah, don't turn the football over. 2 turnovers, a fumble by Jaron, and a fumble or an interception by Mateer, even though 80%, the one, we did have an interception. I don't know whose fault that was entirely, receiver there or the quarterback. It looked like maybe there was a route misunderstanding, but nonetheless, we do not want to continue that pattern we had last year. And to Arnold's credit, with Auburn, he did not turn the football over.
Yeah, he didn't throw either.
All right, gentlemen, good fella. Final thoughts.
Hey, that's week 2, game day, under the lights again, 6:30 kickoff. Should be exciting. I want to see our defense come out strong. I want to see our offense run game get better. We got a few linemen that were out. Hopefully they're returning. I want to see Odd, see what he does on offense. Mateer with some stiffer competition. to see if he's able to have an even better game this Saturday. So I'm excited. We're favored to win. We're going to win. So Boomer Sooner.
All right.
Yeah. What I would say in final thoughts is that this game Saturday, we're 1-0. Texas is 0-1. And I want to emphasize that because they played so horribly in Columbus, Ohio, and there was no flag planting for Texas like the Sooners were able to do. And if we are able to dominate the Michigan Wolverines, that will really rub salt in the wound. Texas still has to go to Florida, and yeah, Florida may be another team that looked really, really good.
Yeah.
So it is very likely if we can have a dominant performance, don't turn the football over, we might be looking pretty good headed into the big weekend, which is coming up in a little over a month.
October 11th, I believe, is the day of that game. OU Texas. I will say Texas does have a few cupcakes on the way to Florida, which the Florida game will be.
They're going to need them to. Yeah, they got to let this budding phenom, mature, and so they need those games.
Yeah,
you got to refuel the hype machine.
That's right. You got to fuel the hype machine. Absolutely. Excited to see this weekend. Excited to see the defense. Hopefully, we can hit them in the mouth early, get the crowd fired up, get the offense going. Hopefully, some run game to help with the pass. So,
iceberg. That's right. I'm glad you said it. The defense, we need the turnovers. They didn't have any turnovers, right?
Yeah, no turnovers.
Yeah, we need some.
Yeah,
got to reverse that.
Yeah. Okay, that'll do it for episode 3 of season 2. Sooner Sound Waves headed into Norman versus the Michigan Wolverines. Let's get it.
Boomer.
Here comes the
Sooner.
Texas.
Y'all don't really want it like that. Here comes the here comes the here comes the y'all don't